Good day to you. Let's take a look at the chapter Learning and Skilling Initiatives. Now, this particular chapter takes a broader look on what an organization needs to do when it comes to assessing and developing talent in the labor pool. What is the initiatives that it needs to take in interaction with other entities, the external entities, let's say the government and the trade associations. See what are the initiatives available. Let's take a look at these broad items which affects the labor pool. Now, what do the HR planners and developers have to look into to assess the different skill levels for a particular industry in your particular region and business environment? Now, how do you assess, develop and mobilize employable skills? Now, an organization is always focused on the competitors, the opportunities, but you have to take a broader picture into consideration. What is the overall skill level available? What is being done to develop the skill level so that you can stay competitive in an international context? So how do you develop and mobilize these capabilities? Now, you as an organization cannot do it single-handedly. You need the support of the government and different associations involved to develop these skills. Now, how do you forecast skill supply in labor market, recruit suitably skilled individuals? How do you go for a wider audience to increase your reach? Support development of existing employees. How do you develop your own employees, develop their skill base? Now, moving on. Now, what are the concerns of low level of training and skill levels? What is the real impact? Now, you will not be able to respond to the changing economic climate in a rapidly developing scenario wherein you need to adapt and survive. The low level of skill will make you obsolete and you will lose opportunities to emerging markets and your competitors who are in a different part of the world. So what you become is you are phasing yourself out of the market because of low level of skills available in your particular industry and the region, and you will not be able to respond to the technological developments, which reduces your overall competitiveness. Now, which in turn results in poor productivity and affects your competitiveness. And this is a limitation which is not orienting from your environment or from your competitors. It is a self-imposed limitation to compete in markets even though you have opportunities. Now, what are the different issues involved here? Now, there is a mismatch between skill, supply and demand. Various research studies have shown that there is a huge gap between the employability and the numbers involved when it comes to the talent pool. There are huge numbers available, but the employability level is very low. So there is an obvious mismatch between skill, supply and demand. Now, coming to the systematic analysis, there is an absolute lack of systematic analysis of future skill requirements. Now, all the efforts are carried on an ongoing basis, concentrating on the short-term objectives, but what is the effort which is being taken on the long-term strategic objectives to meet your other business goals, considering your 5 to 10 year or 15-year span? What are the future skill requirements? Now, lack of training for workers in small organizations. This is a typical problem wherein smaller organizations efforts are concentrated on meeting business targets. Training for workers to develop their skills is not concentrated upon and they lose their edge, and as a result their survival is under question, and their long-term growth is also under question. Now, what are the three different levels? At the individual level, when you train, it increases the job prospects for that particular individual concern, so it increases the employability level. Now, at the organization level, when you put in more effort, more time and more money in your training programs and you develop the skills, you get a return on investment which is higher productivity, higher customer satisfaction and increased market share. Now, at the level of the national and the economic and society, you have national competitiveness. As society as a whole, you can compete and your overall performance and development increases. This is the impact at the level of national. Say for example, when you have skill development councils, you tend to develop society as a whole in terms of skills. So what happens is there is an overall improvement. Now, what is competence based training? Moving from the traditional approaches, now the focus is on competence based training. It is to support the career and development aspirations of learners. It arises from the career aspirations of learners themselves. So there is motivation. To support flexible and job relevant training. This is a flexible approach and it is absolutely relevant to the job in hand. To support employers' objectives for HRD, what does the employer want and what are their objectives? It is taken into consideration in competence-based training framework. To support employees' employability objectives, ultimately it increases skill level of the employees so that their employability level goes up in the market, they can compete in the open market. So this is the idea behind competence-based frameworks and training. Now, what are the contemporary training initiatives? Now, by raising participation in training by young people, you need to focus on the young adults. Now, as their participation grows in the industry, so you need to concentrate training efforts on the young people, and by increasing demand for learning by adults, concentrate on the aging workforce. Raising the quality of education training delivery. It's not just the training programs, the number of training programs, but the quality of the training programs being important. You have to raise the quality of education and training delivery. Equalizing opportunity by facilitating access to training and learning. So the learning opportunities should be spread across, and the limitations in accessing those training programs should be reduced so that a wider audience receives an opportunity to take up these training and learning programs. Now, developing education industry links. This is an avenue wherein you have the industry supporting the education purposes, like they have programs specially designed for your youngsters wherein you can develop the skill level. So developing education, the what you call the academic industry link, is a vital call in this whole exercise of a new modern approach to training initiative. Now, what is the gain here? Help employers to identify skilling needs. Now, you need to, as external, say the government or the trade associations, need to help employers to identify skilling needs to remain competitive, and make recommendations based on the skills analysis. Carry out scientific and systematic research on the skill levels, what are the numbers involved, and make recommendations so that initiatives can be undertaken to remedy these defects or the gaps. Now, agree a training package with the employer. Bring up innovative training programs so that it can be taken up to different employers, employers associations, and you can strike an agreement for imparting these training programs. Recommend funding options or provide access to funding in case employers are not able to meet the fund aspects of, say, arranging a training program. You can provide funding for them. Provide support and progress review as a training package is delivered. Now, what is the effectiveness of the training package delivered needs to be assessed on an ongoing basis so that it can be tweaked and future training programs can be developed on these lines. In the Indian context, what are the modern apprenticeship schemes? Now, the Apprentices Act 1961 lays down the guidelines and what are the initiatives available for training of apprentices when it comes to engineering graduates and diploma holders. Now, it is to regulate the program of training of apprentices in the industry. It lays down the minimum guidelines, what are the different initiatives available, what is the industry interaction, how we need to gear up for this program. To utilize the facilities in industry to meet the requirements of skilled manpower, it takes the active help of the industry in training and developing manpower in order to return the same skilled manpower to the industry by an active participation and coordination approach. Now, for further information, you can log into this particular link to understand how does the BOAT or Board of Apprenticeship training activities are being carried on in a day-to-day context. It has been divided into different regions for administrative purposes and ease of operations. What is the National Skill Development Council? It is again a first of its kind public-private partnership in India to develop the skill level on a pan-India basis. It is to facilitate the development and upgrading of the skills of the growing Indian workforce. The Indian workforce is considered one of the largest and the most equipped to take over center stage in the world when it comes to the next 5 to 10 years. When we have our competitor China, we are going to lead in the next decade. So how do we equip this quality workforce, and what is that the government and the industry organizations are going to do? So NSDC is an effort, is a genuine, honest effort to develop and upgrade the skills of the growing workforce through skill training programs. Now, it supports skill development efforts. It analyzes, they undertake studies and bring up training programs to develop the skill levels. Now, it predominantly targets the unorganized sector in India. by funding skill training and development programs. So wherein there is a lack of fund, employers need support, NSDC funds the programs so that the skill level of employees is raised to the next level. It also engages in training programs. NSDC by itself conducts different training programs in lines with the requirements wherein there are skill shortages and gaps. These are the different initiatives available in the modern context. In the Indian context, wherein the skill levels have to be raised so that the organizations can rise up and meet and compete in the global context. Thank you.